Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Office of Consumer Credit Commissioner's stakeholder meeting to discuss amendments to the OCCC's motor vehicle record-keeping rules. My name is Matt Nance, and I'm the OCCC's General Counsel. I'm joined by other members of the OCCC staff, including Commissioner Leslie Pettyjohn, Director of Consumer Protection Huffman Lewis, Assistant Director of Exam Operations Carl Hubenthal, and Senior Paralegal Ginger Harmon, who's acting as our meeting organizer. We're holding this meeting through an online webinar, and I want to thank everyone for joining us. Getting input from stakeholders is a really important part of our rulemaking process, and these meetings help us make sure we can produce the best rules possible. Our webinar platform is GoToWebinar. Some of you might be listening on your phones, some might be watching on computers, some may be doing both. For those watching on a computer, there's a questions window where you can submit comments to staff. If you have technical questions about using the webinar, you can type them in and Ginger will try to answer those questions. We're discussing a pre-comment draft of rule amendments that's available on the OCCC's webpage for recent and upcoming rules. On that webpage, you can see the draft rules by clicking on the link for motor vehicle record-keeping rules. If you have any comments on the rule amendments, you can go ahead and type those in at any time, and I'll be getting to those in just a few minutes. If you're on a computer with a mic, there's a function allowing you to raise your hand, and then we can let you make a comment verbally. So we're talking about amendments to the OCCC's record-keeping rules for motor vehicle retail installment transactions, and there are two main purposes for this rule action. First, we'd like to implement changes to record-keeping requirements for debt cancellation agreements following HB 2746, a bill the legislature passed earlier this year. And second, while we're updating the record-keeping rules, we'd also like to make some technical corrections and updates. So first, I'd like to summarize these draft rule amendments and then lay out the proposed timeline for the rules, and then you'll have a chance to provide comments. So there are three different sections with proposed rule changes. As a reminder, the OCCC has three motor vehicle record-keeping rules. So there are three different sections with proposed changes. 84707 governs retail sellers that assign motor vehicle retail installment contracts. 84708 governs retail sellers that collect payments on retail installment contracts. And 84709 governs holders that take assignment of retail installment contracts. So the primary rule amendments in this draft deal with refunds of debt cancellation agreement fees. As a reminder, a debt cancellation agreement, or DCA, is an amendment to a retail installment contract, providing that if a vehicle is stolen or totaled, the holder will cancel some part of the debt owed on the contract. Motor vehicle DCAs requiring insurance are governed by Chapter 354 of the Texas Finance Code, and under Section 354.007, a buyer is entitled to a refund of a DCA fee when the DCA terminates due to a prepayment of the retail installment contract. The OCCC has identified failure to provide these refunds as a recurring compliance issue in examinations of licensees. In examinations conducted between 2016 and 2023, the OCCC instructed licensees to provide more than $26 million in refunds to consumers as a result of this issue. In the 2023 regular legislative session, the Texas legislature passed HB 2746, which amended requirements for debt cancellation agreement refunds. In particular, HB 2746 amended Texas Finance Code Section 354.007 to specify first, that retail sellers and third-party administrators are responsible for providing refunds on cancellation or termination of a debt cancellation agreement due to prepayment, and that responsibility is based on the portion of the DCA fee that the seller and administrator received. Second, that holders must either refund the DCA fee on prepayment or provide written instruction to the administrator and retail seller to make the refund. And third, that administrators and retail sellers are responsible for maintaining records of a refund. So in our current rule draft, proposed amendments to sections 84707 and 84708 would specify that retail sellers must maintain documentation of the disbursement of the DCA fee, any written instruction from a holder to make a refund, and documentation of any refund. These amendments would help ensure that the OCCC can fulfill its consumer protection function, verify that sellers are complying with amended requirements, and also verify that consumers are receiving legally required refunds. Proposed amendments to section 84709 would specify that holders must maintain any written instructions they send to another person to make a refund and other refunding documentation that comes into their possession, and that they'll cooperate in obtaining related documents. This is consistent with the holder's current responsibility under section 84709 to cooperate in obtaining documents related to a DCA claim. Again, these amendments are important for ensuring that the OCCC can fulfill its consumer protection function and verify compliance with these important statutory requirements. So those are the amendments governing debt cancellation agreement refunds. The other amendments are more technical corrections. So in sections 84707 and 84708, we'd remove references to the County of Title Issuance Form VTR 136 and the tax collector's handwritten receipt Form 31 RTS. And we understand from the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles that these forms are no longer used in the same way they previously were for motor vehicle dealer sales, and that it's no longer necessary for our record-keeping rules to refer to these forms. And finally, we'd have a few other technical corrections to renumber provisions and cross-references in sections 84707 and 84708. So that's the summary of the draft amendments. Here's a proposed timeline for the rule amendments. You can see that we're requesting informal pre-comments by this Friday, October 6th. We intend to propose the amendments at the Finance Commission's October 27th meeting. There would be an official comment period during the months of November and December. We'd present the rule for adoption at the Finance Commission's December meeting, and the rule would be effective in January 2024. This is, of course, a tentative timeline, and all of this is subject to the Finance Commission's approval of the rules. So with that, I've summarized the rule action, and I will open things up to comments on the rule amendments. Again, there are two ways to provide your feedback through this webinar. First, you can type your comment out and send it to us through the webinar's question feature, or if you're on a computer with a mic, there should be a function allowing you to raise your hand. Also, if you have a longer written question, please feel free to type a quick message into the question field and go to webinar explaining that you have a longer message. So Ginger, do we have any written questions or comments through the webinar?
No, we don't have any at this time.
Okay, I will wait for a minute to see if we get any questions or hand raises. Again, please feel free to raise your hand, or if you're having an issue raising your hand, to send a quick message through the question feature. If you are trying to type out a longer question, please feel free to put in a short message to give you some time to type out your longer question. But I'm still not seeing any. I will wait for 1 minute starting now before we start to move on. Oh, I'm seeing we have some questions coming in. Okay, we have a question from Despina. Is there a relative section which states the record keeping time requirements? For example, are sellers required to retain these records for a minimum of 2 years, etc.? The answer is yes. There's existing language in each of the 3 rules that requires maintaining the records for a particular period. And I will pull up the rule to confirm that so I can get a citation for you. But in general, these would be records that would go in the transaction file for the consumer's particular transaction and maintained for the general record keeping period of 4 years from the later of 4 years from the date of the retail installment contract or 2 years from the date of the last entry. So yeah, for example, in section 84707, that is in I believe subsection D, paragraph 7, that talks about retention and availability of records. And there's a similar section in each of the 3 record keeping rules. We have a comment from Beverly Smith and saying, I'm a dealer and having problems getting copies of the checks sent to customers. If there's some additional feedback on that, we'd be interested to hear. Again, this law requires dealers to send refunds, which could be a refund check, to the customers. So I'll allow a little bit of time if there's a follow-up comment or question to that one. Not seeing other questions or comments. Again, I will wait 1 minute to see if we have any other questions or comments, or see if there's a follow-up to a previous comment. Oh, okay. So another comment from Beverly: the banks send the checks to the customers on the debt cancellation agreements and charge back our reserve accounts. So comment on how this might work in the context of a bank. Again, the new law allows kind of a couple different possibilities for how this can work. One possibility could be that the holder makes the refund. The other could be that the holder notifies the seller with written instructions to make the refund, and then the seller makes the refund. So when we're looking at sellers' compliance with this requirement, what this rule action is primarily addressing is the situation where where those sellers get written instructions from a holder to make the refund and then make it. And we want to make sure our staff can see those written instructions and see the evidence of the refunding. Again, I will wait just a little bit to see if there are follow-up questions or comments. Okay, well, I will start wrapping up, but please feel free to type in a comment if you have any final follow-up. But otherwise, I will start wrapping up. All right, so thank you for the feedback and comments on this webinar. I do want to thank everyone for joining us and participating. Oh, okay. I apologize, my window got messed up. Okay, there we go. Again, rule updates are available on our website, and we'll also be posting the audio of this meeting. We are accepting written pre-comments on these rules until 5 p.m. this Friday, October 6th. Please email those to me at rule.comments@occc.texas.gov, which is our email address for rule comments. Thank you all for attending. Please be safe out there, and we will see you next time. Thank you.